Hello, everyone, and welcome to our training on conflict management, resolution, and transformation course. This training on conflict management, resolution, and transformation is brought to you from the Education and Training Center of the Institute for Crisis Resolution, Peacebuilding, and Conciliation. My name is Ambassador Dr. Abdul Wahid Odewale, and I am from ICRPC, that is the Institute for Crisis Resolution, Peacebuilding, and Conciliation. And by the grace of God, I will be your main facilitator for this course, Conflict Management, Resolution, and Transformation. I want to inform you that this course is very rich. It covers aspects, models, and training. Concepts in conflict management, resolution, and also conflict transformation. It is very rich. It contains 10 modules. We are going to look at the modules one after the other. And the module one, we'll be looking at introduction to conflict management, under which we will look at understanding conflict management definitions and even types. We will look at importance of conflict management skills. We will also discuss overview of conflict resolution approaches, still under module one, and we will talk about course objectives and expectations under module one. Then we will proceed to module two, where we will look at causes and dynamics of conflict, under which we will look at root causes of conflict, dynamics of conflict escalation and de-escalation. We will also talk about conflict styles and personalities, and also conflict mapping and analysis. We'll proceed from there to module three, where we will be looking at conflict resolution techniques, under which we will look at negotiation strategies and tactics. We'll also look at mediation and facilitation skills. We'll also look at arbitration and adjudication processes, in addition to dialogue and communication techniques. We'll move to module four, where we will look at alternative dispute resolution, ADR, under which we will look at understanding definitions and principles of ADR methods, mediation, arbitration, and conciliation. We will also look at implementing ADR in different contexts. And of course, we'll pick up some case studies on successful ADR practices. We will now take module five from there, where we will be looking at transformational conflict resolution, where we will discuss concept of conflict transformation, transformative mediation and dialogue. We'll talk about building sustainable relationships and empowering individuals and communities. And we'll proceed from there to module six, where we'll look at cultural perspectives and conflict resolution. Of course, we will discuss cross-cultural influences of conflict perception and resolution, and cross-cultural communication skills. We'll also discuss respecting diversity in conflict resolution, in addition to picking some case studies under module six, where we look at cultural sensitivity in conflict resolution. We will now talk about, first we'll move to module seven, where we will discuss ethics and professionalism in conflict resolution, in addition to looking at conflict resolution in specific context in module eight. We'll look at module nine, where we'll treat building sustainable peace, under which we look at role of conflict resolution and peace building, strategies for sustainable peace. We'll also discuss, reconciliation and healing processes, in addition to picking some case studies. And we will also end up by looking at module 10, where we shall be looking at future trends in conflict management, under which we'll look at emerging technologies in conflict resolution, innovative approaches to conflict prevention, in addition to addressing global challenges through conflict management. And of course, we'll end up by developing a conflict management plan. Now, without taking much of our time, let us quickly go to the first module, or start with the first module, which is module one, an introduction to conflict management. Understanding conflict. The first question is, what is conflict? What is conflict? Conflict is an inevitable aspect of human interactions. It arises from different needs, different values, different beliefs and goals. It can manifest in various forms. Conflict can manifest in various forms, from personal disputes to large-scale social and or political conflict. So, understanding the nature and types of conflict is the first step towards effective management and resolution. Yes. Now, definitions of conflict I mean, it can be broadly defined as a serious disagreement or a serious argument. You know, typically a protracted one. Conflict actually involves a clash of interests, values, actions, or even directions. In the context of conflict management, it is crucial to recognize that conflict is not inherently negative. It can be a catalyst for growth. Yes, conflict can be a catalyst for change. It can be a catalyst for improvement when managed effectively. Now, what are the types of conflict? We can actually look at the types of conflict, uh, where we will look at the first one, interpersonal conflict. Of course, this kind of conflict occurs between individuals due to personal differences, communication breakdowns, or even competition for resources. Examples include conflicts between colleagues, or conflict between friends, or conflict between family members. Those are examples of interpersonal conflict. Number two, we have intra-group conflict. Conflict that arises within a group or within a team, or even conflict that arises within an organization. It often involves struggles over roles, struggles over responsibilities, or even differences in opinions, and can impact group cohesion and even performance. You know, so that is intra-group conflict. From there, we can move to what we call intergroup conflict. This type of conflict occurs between different groups. It can be between different organizations or social factions. It can be driven by competition, can be driven by resource allocation, or even ideological differences. Then we have international conflicts, which have to do with conflicts that occur between nations or states. You know, conflicts that often, of course, it often involve political, economic, or even territorial disputes. Because these can even escalate to wars or even prolong diplomatic tensions. And the fifth one, we can look at structural conflict. Structural conflict are conflict arising from systemic inequalities or institutionalized inequality or institutionalized injustice within societies. Examples include racial discrimination, even gender inequality, and socio-economic disparities. you know these are the types of conflict. Now let us quickly go to the aspect that talks about importance of conflict management skills. It is very important to note that effective conflict management is essential for maintaining healthy relationships. It's essential for productive work environment and cohesive communities. So the key benefits of developing conflict management skills include: one, enhanced communication, improved ability to communicate effectively, listen actively, and even express needs and concerns constructively. Another importance of conflict management skills is it builds stronger relationships, building trust and mutual respect through the resolution of misunderstandings and grievances. The third aspect is increased productivity, reducing the negative impact of conflict on teamwork and collaboration, leading to better outcomes. Another importance of conflict management skills is, personal growth, because it develops emotional intelligence and even empathy, and even, it adds to your problem-solving skills. Then the aspect of organizational success, which is the fifth importance of conflict management skills. Conflict management skills can foster a positive organizational culture where conflicts are addressed proactively and even constructively. Now, let us look at an overview of conflict resolution, an overview of conflict resolution approaches. Conflict resolution actually encompasses a variety of approaches and techniques that is aimed at addressing and resolving disputes constructively. These approaches can be can be broadly categorized into negotiation, mediation, arbitration, adjudication, dialogue, or even collaborative problem solving. These are conflict resolution approaches or conflict resolution techniques. Negotiation itself, being the first one, is a process where disputes in conflict in engage in direct dialogue to reach a mutually acceptable agreement, where parties, disputants, in conflict, engage in direct dialogue to reach a mutually acceptable agreement. So effective negotiation involves understanding interest, finding common ground, and making concessions. Then the second one is mediation. Mediation involves a neutral third party who is called a mediator. He facilitates communication between disputing parties to help them reach a voluntary, mutually acceptable resolution. Mediators do not impose solutions but can assist in exploring options. Then the third approach to conflict resolution is what we call arbitration. It is a formal process where a neutral third party, who is called the arbitrator, he hears the evidence and arguments from the conflicting parties and makes a binding decision. Arbitration is often used in legal and contractual disputes. The fourth one is adjudication. Adjudication is similar to arbitration, but it typically involves a judge or a legal authority who resolves the conflict based on legal principles and even evidence presented by the parties. The next one is dialogue, which is the fifth one. Dialogue encourages open, honest communication between conflicting parties to understand each other's perspectives and build trust. It is often used in community and international peace building efforts. And of course, the sixth one, the sixth approach under conflict resolution approaches is collaborative problem solving. It focuses on working together to identify the root causes of conflict and developing creative solutions that satisfy the needs and interests of all parties involved. Now, let us quickly look at the objectives of this course: conflict management, resolution, and transformation. What are the course objectives and expectations? This course aims to equip participants with a comprehensive understanding of conflict management, resolution, and transformation. By the end of this course, participants will understand the nature and types of conflict, which will provide, an in-depth understanding of what conflict is, its various forms, and why it occurs. And of course, again, by the end of this course, participants will develop conflict management skills because participants will learn practical skills for managing and resolving disputes effectively in different contexts. Participants will also be able to explore conflict resolution approaches, understanding the various methods and techniques for resolving conflicts and when to apply them. Participants at the end of this course again will be able to apply conflict resolution strategies. That is, practice using conflict resolution strategies through case studies, role playing, and even real life scenarios. And of course, the last but not the least, one of the course objectives and expectations is that participants will be able to promote conflict transformation. Participants will learn how to transform conflict into opportunities for positive change and sustainable relationships. So participants in this training, of course, are expected to engage actively in discussions. You can engage actively in discussions in the comment section. You can participate in practical exercises and even reflect on your own experiences with conflict. So through this course, you will not only develop the skills needed to manage and resolve conflict, but also become a catalyst for positive change in your personal and professional life. So please stay tuned as we move to module 2. We will delve into the causes and dynamics of conflict, including an exploration of conflict escalation and de-escalation, conflict styles, and also conflict mapping and analysis. Now let us quickly move to module 2. Module 2 will be looking at causes and dynamics of conflict. Causes and dynamics of conflict. Looking at root causes of conflict. Understanding the root causes of conflict is crucial for effective conflict management and resolution. Conflict often arises from the complex interplay of various factors, which can be broadly categorized into 1. Resource scarcity. Competition for limited resources such as money, land, or time can lead to conflict. When individuals or groups perceive that their access to these resources is threatened, tensions can escalate. Yes. Number 2, value differences. Conflicts often stem from differences in value, beliefs, and even cultural norms. These differences can create misunderstandings and disagreements, particularly when individuals or groups feel their core values are being challenged. Number 3, communication issues. Poor communication, including misunderstandings, lack of transparency, and ineffective listening can lead to conflict. Miscommunication can cause people to misinterpret intentions and actions, resulting in unnecessary disputes. Number four, power imbalances. Inequalities in power and authority can create conflict, especially when one party feels oppressed or marginalized. Power struggles often manifest in workplace hierarchies, such as anger, in political settings, so to speak, and even social structures. Then, of course, we have emotional triggers. Personal emotions such as anger or jealousy or even fear can spark conflicts. Emotional triggers are often tied to past experiences, personal insecurities, or even perceived threats. And the sixth one is structural inequalities. Systemic issues such as discrimination, social injustice, and economic disparities can be sources of conflict. Structural inequalities often create an environment where conflicts are more likely to occur. Now, let us quickly look at the dynamics of conflict escalation and de escalation. When we are looking at the dynamics of conflict escalation, we are trying to look at how conflict evolves from one stage to the other. The dynamics of conflict involve how conflict develop and change over time. Understanding these dynamics helps in identifying strategies for managing and resolving conflict effectively. Now let us start with conflict escalation. What is escalation? Conflict escalation actually refers to the process by which conflicts intensify and become more severe. There are some stages of conflict escalation. 5 stages of conflict escalation. The first one is called latent conflict. Second is the perceived conflict. The third is the felt conflict. Then the manifest conflict, and the fifth one is the conflict aftermath. Now, the latent conflict, which is the first stage of conflict escalation, that is the initial stage where underlying issues exist, but open conflict has not yet emerged. So tensions are present, but they are not yet actively acknowledged or addressed. That is the latent conflict stage. Then it moves to the perceived stage. That is where parties become aware of the conflict and recognize that there are opposing interests or goals. This awareness can lead to increased tension and even anxiety. Then the first conflict stage is the third stage. At the first conflict stage, emotions become more involved and parties begin to experience stress or even frustration or even anger. The conflict becomes more personal and stakes are perceived to be higher. Then, of course, it moves to the manifest conflict stage, which is the fourth stage. The conflict becomes visible and open, often through verbal disputes, physical altercations, and other overt behaviors. So, at this stage, parties actively engage in the conflict. And of course, the fifth stage is the conflict aftermath, the stage that is following a conflict, where outcomes are assessed and relationships are impacted. So, resolution efforts can lead to either reconciliation or further disputes. Now let's look at conflict de-escalation. Conflict de-escalation. Conflict de-escalation involves reducing the intensity and severity of a conflict. So effective conflict de-escalation strategies include, first of all, number one, active listening. Active listening has to do with paying close attention to the concerns and perspectives of all parties involved. Active listening helps to validate feelings and reduces misunderstandings. Number two, empathy. Empathy has, empathy has to do with demonstrating understanding and compassion for the emotions and experiences of others. Empathy helps to build trust and reduce hostility. And of course, the third stage of conflict de-escalation is clear communication, using open, honest, and transparent communications to express needs and concerns. So, because clear communications help to clarify intentions and reduce assumptions. And the fourth stage of conflict de-escalation is what? Problem solving. When you, collaboratively identifying the root causes of the conflict and working together to develop mutually acceptable solutions. So, problem solving focuses on addressing underlying issues rather than surface level symptoms. And number five is negotiation and compromise. Negotiation and compromise. That is the fifth stage of conflict de-escalation. Engaging in negotiation to find a middle ground that satisfies the interest of all parties. Compromises, are made here. Compromise actually involves making concessions to reach a resolution. And the fifth one is mediation, which is a conflict de-escalation strategy, which involves a neutral third party to facilitate dialogue and help parties reach a voluntary agreement. So mediation involves an unbiased perspective, and that can help to break to break deadlock. Now let us quickly look at another aspect that is very important, where we talk about conflict styles and personalities, because we should know that individuals approach conflict in different ways, often influenced by their personalities, past experiences, and even communication styles. So understanding these conflict styles can help in managing and resolving disputes effectively. So there is a man called Thomas Killman. There's the Thomas Killman conflict mode instrument. Thomas Killman conflict mode instrument, an authority in conflict. Styles, whereby it identifies five common conflict styles. Five common conflict styles. The style of competing, the style of collaborating, the style of compromising, the style of avoiding, and also the style of what? Accommodating. These are five conflict management styles. Yes. So the first one is competing. Under the conflict management style of competing, it is a style that is characterized by assertiveness and a focus on winning. Individuals who use the competing style prioritize their own needs and goals over those of others. This style can be effective in situations where quick, decisive action is needed. The second style is collaborating. The collaborating is a style that emphasizes cooperation and finding mutually beneficial solutions. So collaborators seek to address the needs and concerns of all parties, leading to a win-win outcomes. So this style is effective for complex issues where long-term solutions are needed. Then the third style is compromising. Compromising has to do with a style that involves finding a middle ground where both parties make concessions. Compromisers aim for solutions that are partially satisfying to all involved. So this style is useful when time is limited and an expedient resolution is necessary. Then the fourth one is avoiding. Avoiding, it is a style that is characterized by withdrawal from or even ignoring the conflict. Avoiders prefer to sidestep confrontations and delay addressing the issue. This style can be appropriate when the conflict is trivial or when emotions need time to cool down. And of course, the fifth one is accommodating. Accommodating is the conflict style where individuals prioritize the needs and concerns of others over their own. Accommodators are willing to give in to maintain harmony and even avoid conflict. So this style is effective in situations where preserving relationships is more important than winning. Now we will look at conflict mapping. Conflict mapping and analysis. Conflict mapping is usually a visual tool that is used to analyze and understand the elements and dynamics of a conflict. It helps to identify the key actors, because we know that in every conflict we have primary actors, we have secondary actors, including considering individuals, groups, organizations, and external stakeholders. So this is very important, because conflict analysis involves a systematic examination of the conflict components to develop effective resolution strategies. Because in conflict management, we know that an effective conflict resolution or an effective conflict management is a product of insightful analysis. Now, what are the steps in conflict mapping and analysis? There are there are 7 different steps. In some other climes, it is 5 different steps, but we are going to discuss 7 different steps in conflict mapping and analysis. First step is identifying the parties. You have to determine who is involved in the conflict, including primary and secondary actors. You have to consider individuals, groups, organizations, and even external stakeholders. Then number 2 is understand relationships. That means you have to analyze the relationship between the parties, including power dynamics, alliances, and points of contention. Identify areas of cooperation and even conflict. Then the third aspect is to define the issue. That means you have to clearly outline the issues at the center of the conflict. distinguish between surface level symptoms and even underlying root causes. And the fourth one is analyze interest and positions. That means you have to identify the interest, which has to do with the underlying needs and desires, and you identify the positions, that is the stated demands of each party. Understanding interest helps to find common ground and develop mutually acceptable solutions. And number five is to assess power dynamics. You evaluate the balance of power between the parties, including formal and informal sources of power. When there are power imbalances or even power asymmetries, which can influence the cause of the conflict and the effectiveness of resolution strategies. Then you look at number six, which is identifying conflict escalation and de-escalation factors. That means you must identify factors that have contributed to the escalation or even de-escalation of the conflict. And you have to consider historical context, triggering events, and even current dynamics. And number seven, you have to develop resolution strategies. So based on the analysis, you have to develop strategies for managing and resolving the conflict. You have to consider negotiation, mediation, dialogue, or any other appropriate techniques. Yes, just like I said, an effective conflict resolution is a product of insightful analysis. So, in conclusion, understanding the root causes and dynamics of conflict is essential for effective conflict management and resolution. By recognizing the root causes of conflict, the stages of escalation and de-escalation, and the different conflict styles, individuals can develop strategies to address and resolve disputes constructively. Conflict mapping and analysis provide valuable insights into the complexities of conflict, enabling practitioners to develop tailored resolution approaches. Yes. So in the next module, we will explore various conflict resolution techniques, including negotiation strategies, mediation, and facilitation skills, arbitration processes, and even effective communication techniques. So stay engaged and be ready to delve deeper into the practical aspects of conflict resolution. As we progress, we quickly move to module 3. In this module 3, we will actually be looking at conflict resolution techniques, which is very key. And in conflict resolution techniques, we are going to, in fact, it is very important for us to note that effective conflict resolution requires a range of techniques tailored to the specific context and needs of the parties involved. This module explores various methods that can be used to address and resolve conflicts constructively. Let us look at negotiation strategies and tactics. Negotiation strategies and tactics. So we are starting as a conflict resolution technique. We are starting with negotiation. Of course, negotiation is a process where one or more parties communicate and bargain to reach a mutually acceptable agreement. Of course, effective negotiation involves preparation, clear communication, and strategic what? Thinking. Now, let us look at key negotiation strategies. We have three major negotiation strategies: the integrative negotiation, distributive negotiation, and principled negotiation. Under the first one, integrative negotiation, it is also known as a win-win negotiation. This strategy actually focuses on finding solutions that satisfy the interest of all parties. It involves collaboration, mutual respect, and a willingness to explore creative options. The second is distributive negotiation, often referred to as the win-lose negotiation. This strategy involves dividing a fixed amount of resources. It is competitive in nature and even adversarial, because each party is trying to maximize their gain at the expense of the other party. Now, principled negotiation is based on the Harvard Negotiation Project. This, approach emphasizes four key principles. That means separating the people from the problem, one, and focus on interest rather than positions, two, generate a variety of options, three, and also insist on using objective criteria. Now, what are the effective tactics for negotiation? Effective tactics for negotiation. Very key. Number one tactics for negotiation is preparation and planning. Preparation is the foundation of any successful negotiation exercise. Preparation and planning. That means you have to understand the issues, the interest, and positions of all parties, gather relevant information, and develop a clear negotiation plan. That is the first step in effective negotiation and tactics. Two, active listening. Listen carefully to the other party's concerns and perspective. Show empathy and validate their feelings to build trust and rapport. Three, clear communication. Articulate your needs and your interests clearly. Avoid ambiguous language and ensure that your points are understood. And number four, questioning and clarifying. Ask open-ended questions to gain deeper insights, and clarify any misunderstandings. This will help in identifying the underlying interest of the other party. Then number four is build rapport. Establish a positive relationship with the other party. Building rapport can create a more cooperative atmosphere and even facilitate agreement. Then number five is BATNA. BATNA. That is the acronym for what? Best alternative to